The cavern yawned before them, a maw of darkness swallowing the flickering beams of their headlamps. Dr. Elena Martinez stood at the threshold, her heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, an undercurrent of antiquity that whispered of secrets long buried. "This is it," she murmured, her breath forming ephemeral clouds in the chill. Behind her, Samuel Bates adjusted the audio equipment strapped to his back, his skepticism masked by a wry grin. "Just another hole in the ground," he quipped, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Lena, the youngest of the team, clutched her journal tightly, her fingertips tingling with anticipation. Marcus, their stoic guide, motioned them forward. "Stay close," he warned. These tunnels have a way of turning people around. As they ventured deeper, the sound of distant water grew, a hushed roar that resonated through the stone corridors. Elena's passion for acoustic phenomena had led them here, to this labyrinthine cave veined with underground rivers. She envisioned the unique recordings they would capture, the mysteries of subterranean acoustics unveiled. Sam walked beside her, his practical mind already calculating the data analysis. Despite his facade of indifference, he admired Elena's relentless curiosity. Lena trailed behind, her senses heightened. Every drip and echo seemed amplified, reverberating in her chest. She had always been sensitive to sound, sometimes hearing what others could not. Marcus moved ahead with practiced ease, but even he seemed more reserved than usual, his gaze darting to shadows that ducked away just beyond the light. They set up their equipment in a cavern where the river's song was the loudest. Microphones were placed strategically, cables snaking over slick rocks. As they began recording, an otherworldly harmony filled the air, a symphony of water and stone. Elena closed her eyes, immersing herself in the aural landscape. Suddenly, a disparate sound threaded through the current, a fragment of a whisper, almost imperceptible. She glanced at Sam, whose brow furrowed as he monitored the audio levels. "Did you hear that?" she asked. He nodded slowly. Lena shivered, feeling a coldness that wasn't from the subterranean chill. "It's just the acoustics," Sam reassured them, but his voice lacked conviction. Marcus stood apart, his expression unreadable. "Sometimes caves play tricks," he said quietly. Playback revealed voices layered beneath the rush of water, faint, distorted, but undeniably human. They spoke of journeys and farewells, of names and places lost to time. One voice, hoarse and urgent, recounted a mining accident from a century past. Another whispered the final thoughts of a traveler who never returned. Elena's excitement mingled with unease. These must be residual sounds, she theorized, echoes trapped in the stone. But Lena's hands trembled as she recognized a name, a childhood friend who had vanished years ago. "This can't be," she whispered. Sam tried to rationalize it. "Auditory pareidolia," he suggested. "We're assigning patterns to random noise." Yet a seed of dread took root among them. Tension mounted as the voices grew clearer, more insistent. They spoke in overlapping layers, a chorus of the lost. Marcus became agitated, his earlier calm shattered. "We need to leave," he urged. "Now." Elena resisted. "We're on the verge of a breakthrough." But then, a voice cut through the clamor, distinct and chilling, a voice describing a team of researchers venturing into a cave, never to emerge. It detailed their personalities, their hopes, their fears. It spoke of Elena's determination, Sam's skepticism, Lena's sensitivity, Marcus's secrets. The air thickened, pressing against them. "This is impossible," Sam muttered, his face pale. Lena backed away, tears brimming in her eyes. "It's us," she choked out. "It's telling our story." Panic set in as the cavern seemed to close around them. The shadows deepened, shapes shifting at the edge of sight. The river's roar escalated to a cacophony, the voices rising in a fevered pitch. Marcus confessed, his voice barely audible. "I shouldn't have brought you here," he said. "There are legends, warnings." Elena grabbed his arm. "What are you talking about?" He met her gaze, anguish etched across his features. "This place feeds on stories, on souls trapped by their own echoes." Rocks began to crumble, the ground trembling beneath their feet. "We have to go," Sam shouted. They stumbled through the passages, the path twisting in unfamiliar ways. The darkness seemed alive, pressing in, guiding them deeper. Just when despair threatened to consume them, they burst into a chamber bathed in an otherworldly light. At its center stood a pool where the river surfaced before plunging back into the depths. The voices softened, a lullaby of sorrow and release. Lena stepped forward, drawn to the water. "Maybe we need to listen," she said softly. Elena hesitated but nodded, a quiet resolve taking hold. Together they leaned over the pool, the reflections wavering. The voices coalesced into a single, harmonious tone. A plea and a warning intertwined. Understanding dawned upon them. The cave was not a tomb, but a conduit, a place where the past sought to communicate, to be remembered. "We can carry their stories," Elena whispered. "We can give them a voice." With newfound purpose they carefully retraced their steps, the oppressive weight lifting. The passages seemed less menacing, the shadows retreating. As they emerged into the fading daylight, the silence of the cave gave way to the gentle sounds of the forest. They stood together, the ordeal binding them in unspoken solidarity. Sam exhaled deeply. "What just happened?" he asked. Elena smiled faintly. "Something extraordinary." Marcus looked back at the cave entrance, his eyes reflecting a mix of relief and lingering fear. "Some places are alive in ways we can't explain," he said. Lena opened her journal, her hand steady. "We have a responsibility now," she said, "to tell their stories." In the days that followed, the team dedicated themselves to decoding the recordings, not to exploit but to honor. Their research took on a new dimension, blending science with reverence for the unknown. The voices from the cave no longer haunted them but inspired them to listen more deeply, to the world, to each other, to the echoes that connect past and present. And though they knew not all mysteries are meant to be solved, they found peace in embracing the questions. The cave remained silent once more, waiting patiently for the next souls willing to listen.